you're paying $400 a month for groceries that make you sick, while there's a group of people in Pennsylvania feeding their entire family for the cost of a decent power drill. The Amish figured out something the government doesn't want spreading, something that costs less than your monthly streaming subscriptions but produces more food than your local grocery store can fit in 3 aisles. And they're doing it without asking permission, which is exactly why you've never heard of it until now. This isn't about going off-grid or joining a compound. This is about a $250 system that sits in a space smaller than your garage, produces 40 pounds of fish and 200 pounds of vegetables every single year, runs entirely on a solar panel you can carry with one hand, and operates so quietly your neighbors won't even know it exists. The Amish have been perfecting this for 2 decades, while the rest of us stood in line at Whole Foods pretending organic kale justified the price tag. They call it aquaponics. You call it freedom from the food system that's been extracting wealth from your family since before you were born. Here's what nobody tells you about food independence. It's not hard. It's not expensive. It's not even particularly complicated. What it is banned. Not officially. Not with some dramatic law you can point to, but through the invisible framework of zoning codes and health department regulations and homeowner association rules written by people who benefit from you staying dependent. 23 states have restrictions specifically designed to make backyard fish farming difficult enough that you won't try. They don't say you can't do it. They just make it require permits and inspections and fees that cost more than the system itself. It's the perfect trap. Legal on paper. Impossible in practice. Unless you're Amish. The Amish communities in Lancaster County started experimenting with closed-loop fish systems in the early 2000s. Not because they were trying to make a statement, not because they were preppers or survivalists, because they were farmers who understood a simple truth. If you control your food, nobody controls you. They took the ancient concept of raising fish for protein and combined it with modern understanding of nitrogen cycles and bacterial filtration. Then they did what the Amish always do. They stripped out everything expensive, everything complicated, everything that required dependence on outside systems, and they built it for the cost of a weekend shopping trip. The core system starts with something you've probably seen behind commercial buildings and never thought twice about, an IBC tote, intermediate bulk container. It's that cube-shaped plastic tank sitting on a metal frame that businesses use to store liquids. Factories get rid of them constantly. Craigslist has them for $30 to $60. Food-grade versions that held juice concentrate or vegetable oil. The Amish grab these, clean them with vinegar and sun exposure, and suddenly they have a 275-gallon fish tank that costs less than dinner for 4 at a chain restaurant. That tank holds 40 to 50 tilapia. Tilapia are the miracle fish nobody appreciates. They tolerate temperature swings, they eat cheap feed, they grow fast, they taste mild enough that even kids who hate fish will eat them. And they produce waste, which is where the whole system stops being just a fish tank and starts being a closed-loop food factory that would make your great-grandparents weep with joy. Fish waste is ammonia. Ammonia is poison. In a regular fish tank, you dump the water and refill it, flushing money and nutrients down the drain. In an aquaponics system, that ammonia feeds bacteria. Nitrosomonas bacteria convert ammonia into nitrite. Nitrobacter bacteria convert nitrite into nitrate. Nitrate is plant fertilizer, the same substance you buy in bottles at the garden center for $12 a pound. Except this system produces it automatically, continuously, forever, as long as you keep feeding the fish. The Amish run this bacteria-rich water into grow beds, gravel-filled troughs sitting next to or above the fish tank. The water floods the gravel, the plants growing in that gravel absorb the nitrates, and the cleaned water flows back to the fish. Lettuce, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, herbs, strawberries. Anything that grows in soil grows faster in aquaponics, because the nutrients are dissolved in water, which means the plants don't waste energy searching for food, they just drink and grow. The ratio is simple: 1 part fish tank to 2 parts grow bed. 550 gallons of grow bed space for that 275-gallon tank. That's 6 IBC totes, cut in half, filled with pea gravel from the landscape supply yard at $9 per 50-pound bag. The entire system runs on circulation. Water needs to move from fish tank to grow beds and back. That requires a pump. The Amish use 12-volt water pumps, the kind built for RVs and marine applications, $20 to $40 online, moves 60 to 100 gallons per hour, and it runs on a battery. A deep cycle marine battery, $70 to $100. Charged by a solar panel, 100 watts is enough. That's a panel roughly 3 feet by 4 feet. Cost $60 to $120 depending on where you source it. Add a cheap charge controller to prevent overcharging the battery, $15. Total power system cost $165 on the high end. And now you have a food production system running entirely on sunlight, producing 0 electric bills, 0 dependence on the grid. The Amish assemble these systems in a single day with family labor. Barn-raising culture applied to food security. They set the fish tank on a platform 18 inches off the ground. Grow beds sit lower or at the same height. Gravity does half the work. Water flows down without needing energy. The pump only lifts water back up to the grow beds from the fish tank. They plummet with PVC pipe from the hardware store. $10 in fittings. They drill holes in the grow bed bottoms. Water drains through the gravel, through the holes, back into the collection pipe, back to the fish. The whole loop takes 15 minutes to cycle. The bacteria live in the gravel, on the pipe surfaces, in the biological filter media some builders add. Once established, those bacteria colonies are immortal. You're not maintaining a system. You're managing an ecosystem. Feed the fish twice a day. Cheap tilapia pellets. 50-pound bag for $30 lasts 2 months. Plant seeds or seedlings in the gravel. Harvest vegetables every week. Harvest fish every 3 months. A 6-month-old tilapia weighs 1 to 2 pounds. That's 40 to 100 pounds of fish protein annually from a single tank. The vegetables outproduce the fish by 5 to 1. 200 pounds of tomatoes, lettuce, peppers, cucumbers, herbs per year from a system smaller than a parking space. Total material cost breakdown: 1 IBC tote for the fish tank, $60. 6 half totes for grow beds, already included because you cut 3 full totes in half, so 3 more totes at $60 each, $180 total for 4 totes. Pea gravel, 30 bags at $9, $270. Pump, $40. Solar panel, $100. Battery, $80. Charge controller, $15. PVC plumbing, $15. Tilapia fingerlings, 40 fish at 50 cents each, $20. Fish feed for startup, $30. Seeds, $10. Grand total, $660. Except the Amish don't pay that. They source used IBC totes from commercial operations shutting down or upgrading, free to $30. They collect gravel from creek beds on their property or buy reject loads from quarries at $2 a bag. They build their own solar panel frames from scrap lumber. They know a guy who knows a guy with batteries pulled from old golf carts that still hold 80% charge. They trade labor for materials. They pool resources across 3 families and build 3 systems in 1 weekend. Buying in bulk, cutting costs by half. An Amish aquaponics system costs $200 to $300 in actual cash outlay. The rest is knowledge, time, and community. Which brings us to the banned part. You won't find a federal law against backyard aquaponics. You'll find 1,000 small rules that make it nearly impossible unless you're willing to fight. Zoning codes classify fish farming as agriculture, which is banned in residential zones in most suburban areas. Health departments require permits for any food production system involving live animals, with inspection fees starting at $200 in annual renewals. Homeowner associations prohibit livestock, and in many HOA rulebooks, fish count as livestock. Building departments require permits for any permanent structure, and if your grow beds are anchored or plumbed, they're structures. Water use regulations in drought-prone areas restrict filling large containers, even though aquaponics uses 90% less water than soil gardening because it's a closed loop. The Amish bypass all of this through a legal loophole most people don't realize exists. Religious exemption. Amish communities have negotiated exceptions to building codes, zoning laws, and agricultural regulations for decades based on their established religious practices around self-sufficiency and rejection of modern grid dependence. An Amish family building an aquaponics system isn't breaking the law. They're practicing their faith. And the courts have consistently ruled that religious freedom trumps local zoning. You don't have that exemption, but you have something else. You have the fact that most of these restrictions are only enforced if someone reports you. An aquaponics system built inside a garage or barn or behind a privacy fence is invisible. It produces no noise, no smell if managed properly, no runoff because it's a closed loop. Your neighbors won't know it exists unless you tell them. And by the time anyone official finds out, you've been feeding your family for 3 years, and the political cost of shutting you down outweighs the bureaucratic benefit of enforcement. This is the Amish strategy applied to modern suburban life. Build it, run it, don't ask permission, don't advertise, let the results speak. When your grocery bill drops by 60% and your kids are eating fresh vegetables they grew themselves, and you're serving fish tacos from protein you raised in your garage, the system has already lost. You're not fighting the regulations. You're ignoring them into irrelevance. The government doesn't ban aquaponics because it's dangerous. They restrict it because food independence is the one form of independence that directly threatens economic control. Every dollar you don't spend at the grocery store is a dollar outside the tax system, outside the supply chain, outside the corporate profit model that funds the regulatory agencies writing the rules. The Amish understood this 100 years ago. They built their entire culture around economic separation, not because they hate modernity, because they recognize that dependence is control, and control is theft of autonomy. You don't need to become Amish to apply Amish principles. You need to recognize that the food system is designed to keep you paying every week, every month, every year, for food that degrades your health, empties your wallet, and trains your children to think dependence is normal. An aquaponics system is a one-time cost that produces food forever. It scales. Start with one fish tank. Add a second. Add a third. Families running 3 tanks produce enough food to feed themselves and sell the surplus. Not as a business, as a neighborly exchange. $20 for a bag of tomatoes and cucumbers. $15 for a dressed tilapia. Cash. No reporting, no taxes, no regulation. The underground economy that built America before the government decided every transaction needed a permit. The Amish sell their surplus at roadside stands and farmers markets. They're not registered businesses. They're families with extra food. The legal distinction matters. A business requires licensing, insurance, health inspections, tax reporting. A family selling extra tomatoes from their garden is engaging in casual commerce below the threshold of regulation. The IRS doesn't care about your neighbor buying a fish for dinner. The health department doesn't have resources to monitor every driveway transaction. The system runs on scale. They can regulate businesses. They can't regulate individuals, which is why they try so hard to classify any food production as a business requiring permission. Don't give them the opportunity. Build small, build private, build undeniable. Here's what the first 90 days look like. You source your materials, IBC, totes from Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. Solar panel and battery from Amazon or a local RV supply shop. Gravel from a landscape yard. Pump and plumbing from the hardware store. You spend 2 weekends building. First weekend, set up the structure. Platform for the fish tank. Grow beds arranged in a row or L shape. Second weekend, plumbing and electrical. Run the pipes. Wire the pump to the battery. Mount the solar panel where it gets 6 hours of sun. Fill the system with water. Let it circulate for 24 hours to check for leaks. Day 3, you add ammonia. Pure ammonia from the cleaning aisle, or you cheat and add fish food to an empty system. You're feeding bacteria that don't exist yet. The ammonia level spikes. You wait. After a week, you test the water. Nitrite appears. The first bacteria colony is growing. After 2 weeks, nitrate appears. The second bacteria colony is established. After 3 to 4 weeks, ammonia and nitrite drop to near zero. Nitrate is present. The nitrogen cycle is complete. Your system is alive. You add fish. Start with 20. Let them acclimate for a week. Feed lightly. Watch their behavior. Healthy tilapia swim actively, eat aggressively, show bright color. If they're sluggish, check your water temperature. Tilapia like it between 70 and 85 degrees. In cold climates, the Amish run systems in basements or insulated sheds. In hot climates, they shade the tanks. You're managing an environment, not fighting nature. After the fish settle, you plant lettuce and herbs first. They grow fast and tolerate new systems. Then tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers. These need more established nutrient levels but produce higher yields. You harvest lettuce in 30 days, tomatoes in 60, cucumbers in 50. The fish reach harvest size in 6 months. You pull half, eat them, sell them, replace them with fingerlings. The cycle continues. Every week you're harvesting something. Every month your grocery bill shrinks. Every year you're more independent than the year before. The Amish families running these systems report costs under $5 per week for fish feed after the startup phase. That's $260 per year to produce $600 to $800 worth of food at grocery store prices. The return on investment hits in year 1. After that, it's pure savings compounding annually. A family of 6 eating from a single aquaponics system saves $3,000 to $4,000 per year on produce and protein. Over 10 years, that's $40,000. Over 20 years, $80,000. And the system lasts indefinitely with basic maintenance. Replace the pump every 5 years. Replace the solar panel every 20. The fish and plants are self-renewing. This is why it's banned. Not officially, not explicitly, but through the accumulated weight of rules designed to make you think it's harder than it is, more expensive than it is, more complicated than it is. The Amish prove otherwise every single day. They're not smarter than you, they're not more capable. They just decided the system's permission wasn't required to feed their families. You can make the same decision. The infrastructure is accessible. The knowledge is free. YouTube has 1,000 hours of aquaponics tutorials. Forums have decades of troubleshooting advice. The Amish aren't keeping secrets. They're living openly in a way that seems secret because the mainstream culture has convinced you that food comes from stores and any alternative is fringe. It's not fringe, it's normal. Raising food is what humans did for 10,000 years before the last 70 convinced us we needed middlemen. You don't need the middlemen. You need $250, 2 weekends, and the willingness to stop asking permission from systems designed to keep you dependent. The Amish built a culture around this principle. You don't need to build a culture. You just need to build a system. 1 tank, 1 solar panel, 1 decision to stop funding the machine that extracts your wealth and returns processed food engineered for profit, not health. This isn't a hobby. This isn't a project. This is a quiet revolution happening in garages and backyards and basements across the country, practiced by people who stopped waiting for permission and started building food security on their own terms. The government calls it unregulated agriculture. The Amish call it feeding their families. You can call it whatever you want, as long as you call it yours. The system you built, the food you raised, the independence you earned. Nobody gave it to you. Nobody can take it away. That's the real secret. Not the mechanics of aquaponics. Not the cost savings. Not even the food quality. The secret is that freedom from dependence costs less than a decent power drill and fits in your garage, and the only thing stopping you is the belief that you need permission. You don't. Build it. Feed your family. Let the results do the talking.